It's a great warm-up for our next talk, the Baltic Offshore talk. So let's welcome on the stage the participants. I hope you help me welcome them right here. First of all, the Commercial Director of Survey at NC, Mr. Paul van Waalwijk. A round of applause. Welcome. Next up, the Deputy Director General at the Investment and Development Agency of Latvia. Let's welcome her back, Ms. Laura Štrovalde. The COO of Ventolines, Ms. Elisabetta Aarts. Let's welcome. Next up, the CEO of Enefit Green and the Chairman of the Board of the Estonian Wind Power Association, Mr. Juhan Aguraiuja. Let's welcome Mr. Aguraiuja. We want to see on the stage the CEO of Ignitis Renewables, Mr. Gary Bills. Welcome. And our dear moderator for this talk, the head of the International Business Development at Ignitis Renewables, Ms. Anu Eslas. Anu, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
The stage is yours.
Really appreciating that. Whew. Welcome everybody, and I'm really happy to see that after lunch there is so many people back, so we truly appreciate that, and of course people in online welcome also. It's the 5th year, and I think that every year we have been here and talking about the offshore wind. And let's be quite frank, I think there is nobody in the room who is doubting that there is a big potential in the Baltic Sea. But also, let's be quite frank, not too many progress have been made or real developments have been made. There have progress, but maybe the steps have been smaller than we have been expecting or every year we are expecting. The market have changed. Offshore wind is having a new era. The costs have grown up. There is a heavy challenge or competition for financing skills and so on and so forth, and for the supply chain. So therefore, I'm really happy to have excellent panelists in this talk. And we will be as interactive as possible. We will have as short answers as possible. And we expect you to ask a lot of questions also. So use Slido. The link is there. So please be active and that we can kickstart. And also one of the things, I know that those guys might, and the ladies might say that they don't know the answers. They told me that this will be the answer every question I will ask, so let's see how they will behave themselves, but you know. But I will start with the easy one, Laura, because you are the hosting nation of this fantastic conference, and you have been collaborating with Estonia and in the Elwind project. But as you have been also one of the thinkers in that way that things are in the progress, things are coming, but on the other hand, maybe a little bit a slower space. Do you see that you are not late, and do you see that the wind market is, or offshore wind market is still there when you will get to the race or to the end line of the race?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have been developing that particular project, Elwind, together with Estonia for several years, already starting with the planning, and now the EIA is there and being carried out different studies. I think the right moment is the one when the team, the government decides to auction the park out. So it will be very carefully calculated. And this is not the only one project in the pipeline that will be auctioned out in the following years, not in the Baltics, not in the Europe. So I think when we will see those off-takers or the need from the industry, then the new projects will be developed, because currently there is this mismatch, like who will be the first for whom we are building all those projects or for whom we are making all those plans, because the reality check is when there's the demand and the projects, right, and this electricity. So I think that will be the right moment, and we will very carefully calculate that, because of course both the government in Latvia and also in Estonia expects that these two areas, these two parks, bring into the economy in the long term as much as possible. It's not only about the price or the mechanism, but also to foster the industry, to foster the value chain, because this is the story we have, that this project is happening, going on, and with the huge planned capacity. So yeah,
Okay. So
no one can predict the future, but I think for each and every project there will be the right time.
Super. Absolutely correct. And I think that also that Latvia have defined that offshore wind is in their energy mix and quite crucial part.
Yes.
Juhan, you are from Estonia. And quite proudly we can say that a little bit time ago you signed a cooperation agreement with Sumitomo. And first of all, of course, congratulations for that, because it's a major step. But also it was sweet and sour situation, because next day the Estonian government decided to pause the potential CFD auction. So how you keep the positivism, and how you are, making the project going forward and collaboration with international wise, when the political signals are a little bit hectic or maybe not so clear. So.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for the congratulations. Of course, there is a lot of work behind it. It just didn't happen, so it was a great effort by the team, and it culminated exactly the day of the signing. Big celebrations, of course, and then everybody woke up hangover and read the news, and thought that how long have we been partying? But it was really a shock at the first moment, of course. But on the other hand, this is exactly the advantage, that when you bring in such a partner who has long experience, international experience from all different kinds of the world. Estonia is not the first country, to be having its ups and downs about offshore and energy matters, and they see it very clearly that that. Of course, there are some bumps in the road. Nobody who is part of the offshore here thinks this is a smooth ride, easy ride to the finish line, right? So, and the teams are still committed. The official statement has been that the CFD auction is postponed. The Estonian new energy minister has clearly stated offshore is a part of the energy mix for Estonia, and those are the signals that keep us going, and the project needs to be matured. Anyway, no matter when it happens, there is still a long way to go until we reach maturity with the project.
Thanks for that. Gary. I know that there are some questions what might sound tough, but I was actually making my homework before, and I asked everybody to contribute. So therefore, I'm sorry for those maybe uncomfortable situation. But Ignitis is developing projects in Estonia, in Lithuania. This year we came out also the indications that maybe the market is not ready yet to make merchant-based developments in that speed or that scale. So how you see the Lithuanian and overall maybe Baltic markets moving forward, and what are the challenges you are facing every day, because we are having extensive team in Lithuania. We are working every day on it. So what's the next step?
Do you want an awkward silence now as well?
No.
Look, I think it's important to differentiate between what the requirements are for government, for balancing the system, for how the profile of energy looks, and separate that away from commercial activities. So I think everybody acknowledges that we need offshore wind to profile the system. It gives a different balance to the system because of its wider spread. So if you take that on one side and say, okay, the Baltic states acknowledge that they need X amount of energy, be that 700 a gigawatt, 1.4 gigawatts, whatever. Then you say, okay, but then the rest of these projects, and there's not just Ignitis' project in Lithuania, there's a group of projects in Estonia, there's potentially projects in Latvia. They need a different route to market, and they need a commercial route to market. And once you've done that separation, what you find is that the route to market that is perceived is either huge amounts of offtake in the country, so expected growth, which is what we initially budgeted for, hydrogen, which is coming much later, or some kind of offtake to Germany and so on, which I think we spoke about earlier this morning. So it's just about managing expectations for us. So our first project is quite clear. It's a commercial project. It needs to fly commercially. So we need to wait for the conditions to be suitable. We'll go all the way. We'll make the EIA. We'll get that project ready, and then we'll sit and see how long it takes to find a commercial route. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we still need to build offshore wind in the Baltics, and that needs some kind of government support to really get it online when we need it, sort of 2030, 2031, 2032, that's essential.
Just to echo that, did I understand it correctly? Because this is one of the questions I have received today, at least the most, is that Ignitis is planning to continue everything with the offshore projects, and there is no stopping in that way.
No, there's no. I mean, we have a team of 100 people nearly working full time to both get ready for the second auction in Lithuania, to continue the EIA process in Lithuania, second auction in Lithuania, and to continue with this Groningen North project, which we won back in the day, to push that. And we've got a lot of work to do to get that through this initial design phase to receive a construction permit and a build permit. So no, full gas, let's say.
So at least one question down. Elisabetta, you have been working closely with some of the developers here, also in that city. So, and you know also what is going on in Europe and other countries. How you see the Baltic market developments? Do you see still the hype, the potential, or you are already seeing the real actions also?
We absolutely see the potential. That's why we're here, basically, and we indeed were successful in getting assignments for, potentially very important projects, including Elwind. So yeah, definitely there's a great potential. At the same time, I think that what we see lacking is a converging approach between the three Baltic states regarding offshore wind development. And that is also looking, it's not just about the production side of things, it's not just about the offshore wind generation, but it's also your wider industrial policy. Where do you go with the power that is being produced? There's no, I heard it in previous panel discussions as well, very interesting. Basically all the panels should have been put together, and discussed it in one hall. Where do you go with the power? What is your industrial policy that is needed to actually be able to export your power, not just between the Baltic states, but also between the Baltic region and neighboring countries. And I think that clear roadmap that's definitely a bottleneck at this point in time, and we see that is makes it harder for investors and developers to go full in for the Baltic market.
Thanks for that. Paul, you have been in North Sea and Baltic Sea, and also having a different experience on markets. I always admire in that way that North Sea is working so well, and they are, growing and, fast-tracking everything. So if they can do it, why Baltics or Baltic Sea can't? Or maybe you are having a different thinking about it. So
I will definitely not say that you can't make it. That would be the wrong signal, I think. But the starting point in the North Sea has been very different from where Latvia and the Baltic states are at this moment. So we started somewhere between 2000 and 2005 in the renewable industry. And at that time, already in the North Sea, there was a huge track record in offshore operations. There's been oil and gas works and all sorts. So there was an infrastructure, there was supply chain, there were all the ports. Everything was ready as the right basics to start something new. So we had a head start compared to where the Baltic states are at the moment. Still, and as the ambassador already said, there were quite some difficulties, even in this, with this head start, because we saw the main thing, I think, in these issues we saw, and you will see the same here, is that we have companies starting offshore business, if it's developers or owners that actually are onshore orientated and suddenly are involved in offshore operations. And that led into quite some difficulties, where I recall difficulties in contracting and misunderstanding, misalignment between the different parties, and that in the end resulting into budgeting, the wrong budgeting, project delays, everything you do not want to have on a project. So that was a big hurdle we had to take, and I think in the end we did. And if I look at the Netherlands, that was because I think for a big part we had to. If you look at renewables, there is not so much space to build onshore wind farms. There are quite a few, but it's very different from what we see here in space-wise and population-wise. That difference is about 10 times. So in the Baltic states, there's 10 times the space that we have in the Netherlands. So when we were looking for offshore then, we had to go into this renewable thing. So there was a huge drive. And then there was, of course, sustainability was a big thing. And we see that nowadays, especially in the Netherlands with a new government, not so important more as it was. At that time it was, so it was really on a steep curve going up. So I think the government has chipped in big time. And I think that was really needed to push us over that hill. And after that, it was going downwards in an easy flow until today. And to be honest, it's a little different in the North Sea now as well.
As possible to you, so ask questions from there. There are already 2, so I need to have a little bit more. But maybe indeed you already started to mention that the government role, and maybe it will be interesting to see, and whoever want to jump in will show me the hand and will answer it. Like, I think that the governments in the first panel have always said that there is a role, we can see that it's coming, we are talking about it, and so on and so forth, but somehow still we are not making or managing still to commit, that there something really practical would happen. So the question also in the Slido was that what, from your perspective, each member state should do to make it happen. And actually, I would want to have it start from international side. And Gary, I will consider you local. That how you would see what are the things what local governments have to do more than just to talk. That this is priority. Paul, Elisabetta, who want to start?
There are a few things, so I'll only mention one, and then there's enough left for the other ones. But I think one thing you said is each state, and I think it's important, and we heard it already a few times today, we shouldn't talk about each state. We need to create volume, and volume is by working together. So we got the Baltic states working together with the operators, with the developers. We really need to stick our heads together.
Elisabetta?
Yes, I agree. I also think that so predictability is very important. It's very important for success. We heard that in other panels. Coordination is very important, and governments need to take a lead there. So I heard. I think the Ministry of Economic Affairs mentioned something that he supported, and he sort of said, it'll get there, but it will not get there of itself. That someone has to take active responsibility and do things and make sure that when politics are different, there's a different government or whatever, that these things do not change together with that. because that's basically it's killing for any investment climate. So predictability, a coordinated approach, and a proactive coordinated approach by someone taking the lead over these processes, over the policies that are required on the long term is essential.
So now Juhan?
Yeah, of course, the exact thing that companies expect is clarity about the CFD, but that is, let's say, the very detailed step. But I think that what we are mostly lacking is, let's say, societal level agreement. What are we going to do? And the discussion has been very much on political level or very much on an administrative level, but there is no clear social agreement that, this is what we are focusing on in the energy sector. Offshore is such a big topic. It cannot be done, decided by two people in a, dark room, right? So as it was done in Estonia, 3 people. So it has to be a big social debate and a common understanding why we need this. There needs to be a common understanding what needs to be done, and then we get to that who does it against a CFD or whatever.
I can add to that you mentioned the commitment. So commitment involves some level of risk taking, right? So, and that's the key. So to commit to something where there are a lot of unknowns is risky, and governments naturally tend to avoid those decisions. So I think to start with, to look at also these sectors, some these larger plans, to look at this as a business plan, like to answer those questions also for ourselves, for the communities, for the industry. So if we'll invest in this or that in the grid or in the offshore or apply CFD, then what will be in 5, 10, 20 years? So make those assumptions, and that, from my perspective, would also ease a bit that level of risk or understanding what we are. What this or that decision implies, and what are the assumptions, what will be next. So the unknown is the one that, no one knows, like, maybe this, maybe that, priorities changes, like, and how to also merge that together with the current priorities or those situations that we need to solve, right? The security aspect, and what that was also very precisely put, that these two sectors need to kind of merge together and to involve elements from one to another and vice versa, so that it will also bring extra value and extra importance to these sectors' projects.
Gary, now provoke us.
Okay, first of all, it's not an either-or case. I hear either or already in this panel, yeah? It's not should we build onshore wind or should we build gas. You need offshore wind. So everybody should just get their head around the fact that we need offshore wind. And you can like it or not like it, but you simply can't run a system on solar, onshore wind and batteries. It's just physically not possible. You would need an immense amount of batteries and it just wouldn't make any sense. The second thing is it's expensive. Really expensive to do this. The capex is immense, right? And then the third thing, and I'm going to talk about Lithuania specifically because that's kind of the most interaction we've had. All the project developers have a finite amount of people, resource, cash, whatever you want to call it, right? And they can't be in all markets. And I'm speaking as an adopted Lithuanian here, right? It's dear to my heart these days, Lithuania. It's not an attractive market. I'm sorry to say, it's not an attractive market. If you're going to go to France, Germany, Netherlands, UK, super stable markets with projects done over and over again, you need to give developers something to entice them into the market. That means your CFD needs to be attractive enough to bring them in. And we've seen that, like, how many developers really come? We've had this discussion, they're not willing to come. So either you accept as a government that you need to make your market attractive, and you perhaps pay more in your CFD, or you give other incentives. or you accept not, and you're going to live with the local players who are the ones sort of solving the problem no matter what. And somehow government need to get their head around what they really want. So I guess it's a little bit the same as everybody. We need to be committed 100%, but they need to be decided on what they're committed to. Are they committed to a full, open, super fantastic tender where 10 people are going to turn up? Or are they going to be committed to building offshore because they needed to keep their energy system stable?
Is it?
Is that provoking enough?
I'd just like to just say that I fully subscribe to this. It's not a mix. I mean, it's very simple. Developers, investors, the industry will not move on risk purely. You know, they have to decide from any moment to any other moment where they put their capital, and they will put the capital where, you know, there is sufficient investment security, where there's predictability, where they can actually determine, assess what the risk is that they are taking. So, meaning that indeed governments, and this is what happened in the Netherlands, for instance, with the socialization of grid connection for offshore projects, which was a real, has really, you know, sped up the offshore wind development. Governments have to upfront provide the framework that is essential for investment security. If they do not, if that's not the start of it all, then you're not getting anywhere, because the industry will not move before that framework providing security, investment security, and predictability is in place.
Paul, Laura, and Juhan, I still have a question also from your side, because we had a short discussion before. Do you see that the attractiveness of the Baltic markets have been starting to decrease? And you know, do you see that, because I think that a year or two ago we had lots of international partners here, and the hype was there, but do you really see, and even though you were successful to sign the cooperation agreement, but do you see that overall tendency is that actually the attractiveness is decreasing? And maybe, Paul, you can start.
I do. Yeah, but I'm very hopeful it's temporarily. We definitely see, I think it's been overshooting. It's been such a house going up more and more renewables, and I think we've been overshooting, and we're now going down, and hopefully in the next couple of years it's getting a bit more stable. That would be very healthy, because there was shortage on the market. The prices go through the roof. Was not healthy for anyone. The situation we're in now in the North Sea is a little bit less positive, to be very honest. But as I said, I hope it's temporarily, and that it's really getting into the right, stable position and being a mature market.
And governments, so the Dutch government, so it's true, the situation in the Netherlands currently with the current tender is more difficult, and what you see is that the government immediately responds and immediately redefines their goals and the way they set up this the current tender. So there's an immediate reaction, sticking to the program, sticking to the goals, and you know, it's not taken back to be discussed internally and for years again. No, this tender will still happen, and it's, you know, likely to be published in September of this year ultimately, but they will remain on track.
Super. Laura?
As for Latvia, I think that simply, as you put also, that the hype is over, right? So the interest and the number of projects are decreasing in the whole Europe. It's not only about the Baltics or Northern Europe. So this is one thing, but what is a very good thing, at least what I see in Latvia, that more and more companies are stepping into this sector to be part of the value chain and providing services and products to developers and industry in other countries. So that is good. It's not only about how many developers we are having as bidders, but who actually makes the final investment decision. So it's quality over quantity, I would say. And behind the curtains, yes, the industry is developing, and that's very good.
It certainly has impacted it. Let's say that we have a few years ago already had the first round of getting rid of some large investors in the region. There was Ørsted, there was RWE here present, and I really hope that the government still remember that kind of attitude that drove them away. Now is the new chance not to drive away the new investors, but it's clear, of course, as I stated before, that they are used to some bumps in the road, but they have also their limits, of course. And it is exactly as it has been mentioned before, that they look it on a global scale. They are not picking if, we should put the project in Estonian waters or Lithuanian waters or Latvian waters. They are looking, should we put it in the Baltics, near Chile's coast, Australia's coast, France's coast, or whatever. And in that kind of race, we have to be competitive, as you already mentioned, Gary, so that we have a window opening, we have a momentum, we should take advantage of it. And how we do it is we get concrete, and we get concrete fast, and that is what we need, because this kind of just, maybe we'll do, maybe not, it's just 2 years. This is fine to do with local players, you can do it on onshore, things are moving slowly, but the momentum currently is here in the offshore, and we should take advantage of that.
I promise next 25 minutes we are speaking only about the positive things. So this was the, making sure that we have the reality check done, but now let's see the future and a little bit in the positive tone. And I think that we have heard in many formats today that the Baltics should cooperate together and brand it together, and why can't we? And what is the reason that we don't manage to do that? And I will actually start with Gary, with you, because you are, as you said, Lithuanian by heart now, but still having a past international one. So what do you think that what is the biggest obstacle, and maybe also giving a guidance to us that, okay, what we have to change to actually do that?
Okay, look, without wishing to state the obvious, power price and PPA. I mean, you can't move this electricity. Lithuanian government isn't going to fund the Latvian country energy system with its offshore wind, and vice versa. Yeah, so you can't move this CFD across markets. So unless you can come with, and you and I have had this discussion over and over again, one single European CFD, to me, that's the answer. It's the same CFD across the whole of Europe that the European Commission commits to. That way you can build your projects anywhere and make them work anywhere. So the only way you can really, if you're talking offshore, the only way you can really do this is by getting some kind of exemption from the EU to say that the 3 Baltic states can have one CFD and the 3 governments commit to it and the 3 governments balance the cost between them. Otherwise, somebody's going to take the hit, let's say, yeah. I mean, it's simple as that.
And yeah, Laura, from Lia's side, because you are branding Latvia and not Baltics, and just, interesting fact, I think not many knows, but there is Expo going on at the moment in Japan. And there is Lithuanians, there is Latvians, there is no Estonians, and the slogan is, "We are one."
And the name of the pavilion is Baltic Pavilion.
Yes.
Yep.
So why you as investors, who are bringing in the investors, why you think that we can't do it together?
Of course, from the investment attraction perspective, it would help a lot. Of course, there's no doubt about that, because investors look at the region as such, and we are already connected very strongly. If some country does good, then we have better awareness, or also other countries. And if some country fucks something up, then the same goes also for the other 2 neighboring countries. You can cut it out, but that's the reality, and we have to live with that. But I don't think, if you'll ask any other country why the northern countries cannot be as one, they also won't agree. And it's not about the size of the country. We are different. We are small, but we have different languages, different cultures. We have many things in common, but as much things different. So, yeah, we can do some projects together. It's not easy. We have different legislations as we are developing Alvin together with Estonia. It's not an easy, also on a legislative level, to make some joint projects. We are doing a Real Baltic together. Expo.
Is it a success story?
Not from the project development perspective, but still 3 countries are there together and have to move that project together. But I don't think that it's realistic that we will really in following years come up with a joint strategy in any of the sectors or industries or you name it. I don't think it's possible. We can find some common grounds. We can do pilots. We can, but in overall, like agree on common grounds, how to move with one or another aspects, like in a broad area, that would be very challenging. Sorry, Gary.
But look, the one place we can do it is in electricity. The Baltic states are the best interconnected markets in Europe. Yeah? Between Lithuania and Latvia, 108% interconnection. Yeah? I mean, if there's one place where we can share power, it's in the electricity market. I agree in other things culturally and you want to keep your identities. It's just electrons. And in reality, they don't move. They just stay where they are and shake from side to side. So in the power market, I firmly believe we can do something. Yeah?
I think that indeed that maybe we have to start to believe ourselves that this is possible, and then things will happen, as it was said also, before. So, and I said that we will be positive. So there is a positive note that we will find the ways. So now I will start to take the questions from the Slido. So please prioritize your choices, so therefore maybe we will not be so positive tone again, but it's your choices. There is a question, what have got at the moment almost the most votes, is that what is the rationale of moving forward with Liepāja port upgrade for offshore wind? BALTIC is finishing construction, Klaipėda is starting construction. So who wants to?
I'm representing Latvia. I suppose that I can. I think the investor or the developer will vote to which port to go to. We are not the ones to decide which port in which country will be there for the offshore, or it will be one or several. It's not for us to decide, and it will be clearly decision made on business, on the numbers, on financial outcomes. So, yeah, that's my opinion.
So there is another question. What are the key differences for developers between offshore and onshore?
I can start. So first of all, one you approach with the truck, the other one with the ship. But I don't know what is the idea behind the question, but I try to understand this. So that from essence, first of all, offshore needs a lot of effort put into the project before you reach maturity stage. So it's a lot more longer commitment before you get into maturity where you could make a final investment decision. And it needs also a lot of more resources. And also the build out takes a bit of longer time, so that puts it in a different kind of approach when it comes as well about the CFD, why it is so necessary offshore, because the time from the decision of the CFD and in the completion of the park, there is much longer time period than from the decision on onshore. And I would say that is from the business sense, that's the biggest difference. Maybe you want to add something?
I think the scale of the engineering is just not even comparable. I mean, if you imagine that Actually, the Riga TV tower is taller than the Lithuanian TV tower, which is always a bone of contention. But if you imagine that if we take the Lithuanian project, 49 TV towers in the sea, that's how tall they are standing up. And below that, there's 20 meters before you get to the sea of monopile, 40 meters in the sea of monopile, and 40 meters under the sea in the floor of monopile. So there's 100 meters, and then there's 350 meters. The scale of that task, engineering-wise, is enormous. And so it goes back to what you were saying before, the amount of development work you need to do at the beginning to make sure that you're absolutely certain that that piece of ground you're going to put that wind turbine on is totally suitable for the next 35 to 40 years is immense. The amount of ships in the water, the amount of investigation work, surveys, drilling, everything that you need to do offshore in 40 meters of water is super challenging. So it's the cost and the size of what you're dealing with. Yeah.
Does anybody want to jump in?
I would say altogether it's risks and responsibilities that are very different. Onshore, it's more predictable, less risk. So an onshore company is used to put the risk with a contractor. Where offshore, there's many unpredictable situations. A survey can help a lot. A good survey can even help more. That's very, very important part. But still, there will always be uncertainties that, at the best is a shared risk for both parties. And that is for an onshore company quite something very new.
But there's also a flip side to this, I think, because from that perspective, it's completely, and what you explained, it's obvious. But there's also a flip side, which, from a Dutch perspective, offshore locations are basically provided together with the permits. So when when the locations are being tendered, you do not have any further early development work on permits, etc. Another, let's say, advantage of offshore projects in terms of community community resistance or resistance from local people. In the Netherlands, it has even been said that one of the reasons to focus more and more on offshore projects is because the local resistance, community resistance to onshore wind has grown significantly. If we look at development times, so my company has been involved from end to end, basically from start to finish in the largest wind energy projects in the Netherlands, 500 megawatt, 384 megawatt, and these projects had a development, a project cycle time of about 10 to 15 years. So when in the Netherlands we also support offshore tenders, so we offer bid support. Once you have been awarded the location, there's a lot of work to be done still, and a lot of risk involved, especially financial. But this whole thing has already been dealt with, and that makes it a lot shorter in let's say throughput time.
Maybe just one other thing, just to be really positive. It's fantastic engineering. If you're a young engineer coming fresh out of university now, and you're not looking at offshore wind as as a heavy engineer, if you're not looking at offshore wind, there's something quite wrong, because it is the most exciting engineering you can be involved in.
Absolutely. There is another question, just saying that please vote for the best one, so I will ask it. I know one is getting the most votes. It will be already put into one of the last questions already, so we will get there. There is a question. The supply chain won't invest in facilities when there is a limited pipeline of the projects. What can we together as the Baltic states to build that confidence?
I mean, look, in reality, we don't need them to invest. That's the reality, yeah? We're not that far away from... Laura might have a different opinion than me because I'm looking at this as a developer, not an invest lab here or whatever. We just need them to be somewhere nearby and quick enough, and we need to have capable ports, right? So we need our ports to be invested in. Everything else can come from somewhere nearby. I think if we're honest with us, if we're all honest with ourselves, we're going to build, if we're really good, 5 or 6 projects in the Baltic states, if not a few less. With Poland next door building 12 or 13, with Germany and Denmark, those manufacturing centres are good enough. We have to be happy with, I don't know, doing ground matting, doing some of the maybe the secondary or tertiary work for these projects, and that should be enough for us. And I'm only being realistic about this, you know. It's no good me pretending to go to Smulders and say, hey guys, why don't you come and throw a factory in Klaipėda because we're going to build one project. It's very difficult for them to get their heads around that, you know.
We need to have a solid pipeline of projects to really have those companies come to the Baltics.
Do you believe that we don't have it? Because I think that there is a solid pipeline already.
Well, if we speak about the offshore, then could be better, I think. There's still plenty of space for the build-out, but of course we have to be realistic that we won't fulfill all our wish list, but I think that it's good that also the governments, the states are.
But what's the advantage, Laura? Sorry, what's the advantage?
The advantage for the economy.
Okay, so that's a separate, but that's a separate thing
course.
for government, and I'm very clearly differentiating between what I want as a developer and what the government wants, right? And this is important because this goes back to this very first question of, are the government on board, right? If the government want Vestas to come and invest in a blade factory here, fantastic, I'm over the moon. But as a developer, I don't need that to happen.
That won't change a thing for you,
Nothing for
of
me
course.
at all. And so this is where you need to make that clear differentiation between, are the government committed? And if they are, they're going to entice these tier 1 manufacturers to come here and build something. And if they're not, it's not going to happen. Yeah? For me as a developer, it's not going to save me, it might save me a few €1,000, but it's not going to save me much in reality, you know?
Yeah, sure. But that's the thing, how in Latvia the government looks at those parks, so what kind of value it will bring to the economy, not only the park development, the renewable energy will have itself, but also how it will develop the industry and what kind of added value it will bring to each and every country. So that's the thing, how they are looking more broadly, and of course what kind of stories we are telling that hey, here are this and these projects being developed, so you can count on them. So please consider that when deciding where to build your next factory or development plans to make in which country.
There is a question, Laura, to you. And I will ask that also from Gary and Juhan also, but in different format. Can Latvia learn from the mistakes of neighbors like Estonia?
We should, and of course we can, but
what
would we? We were highly criticized that when the auctions were planned in our neighboring countries, in Estonia and Lithuania, we were kind of not moving and waiting for something. So, and we from the investment perspective also were waiting that, hey, we need to make that first step. And now when we see the results of these auctions and those development plans, of course we can learn, but I think the devil is in the details. It's not so easy as it seems from broader perspective. So, yes, of course, that was also your question, how to when to auction the park out and how to get the most, in broader perspective, the most out of that auction, and how not to miss the right moment or to wait for the right moment. No one knows whether Latvia was winner or loser not auctioning out the areas when the neighbors did it. No one knows. The future will show, maybe won't. But as I mentioned, we all are connected. All the Baltic countries are connected, and each success also helps us to be better, and also the failures helps us to at least try to learn from those failures or the results that are not as great as may be expected from the many partners. Yeah.
So is there something concrete that we could learn from each other, Gary or Juhan?
I would point out that if we make the assumption today that either the Estonian or Lithuanian one will be the first offshore park, then the key difference is that if you start planning the second one, you cannot make the same assumptions that was made on the first one. And I think that is what we see a lot on the onshore, that now that we have already a lot of onshore in the market, that the governments are not adapting, that the market has already gotten some part of renewables in the market, and you cannot make the new decisions based on the same assumptions you used 5 or 10 years ago. And I think that's the opportunity for Latvia to see that after the first project has been decided or made, that now we need to recalibrate and make our decision based on the new reality.
Gary, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. Okay. So we have only some minutes left. So now we do the fast questions, and the most, of course, what was asked, and I will ask everybody to answer. What year the first FID of offshore will be done? First offshore in the Baltics FID.
Is there a price on it?
No. Year is enough.
Please.
Year is enough.
27.
27?
Something around that, 27, 28, yeah.
I said 27. If we get serious, otherwise it will be 2030 or later. There's work to be done, but then it will be 27.
I have still a great belief in our Liivi project, so I would say we are the first ones and we will make it in 28.
So the first
No pressure.
The first one's in 28, yeah?
FID.
Okay, look, at the risk of being a little bit controversial, it depends on what you mean by FID. This is where the differences in onshore and offshore wind are, yeah? If you mean bank close, yeah, then I think 27 also, yeah, early 2027. But I think that if people want to get ready for projects to be built earlier, then there'll be some sort of mini FIDs to get their turbine procurement over the line or their topside procurement over the line. But technically, bank launch or bank close 2027. Yeah.
I had the question also that, okay, what country it will be?
Lithuania.
There is one to Estonia, one to Lithuania. Anybody want to pick the side?
One or another neighbor, fortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I have another fast-tracking question. What are your 3 priorities for the next 5 years to boost the wind, offshore wind? What we should do today, tomorrow? Max 5 things. It can be one. What your recommendation for us? Okay.
There are a lot of things, but altogether it's to win the faith of the developers and the investors. That's where it's all about. How to get there. I think there are a million things, but to try to pinpoint it, I think the grid is now, of course, number 1, in my opinion then. I think there was a great discussion at Hall 2 before this one about defense and wind farms. And I think that's something where maybe that can accelerate things. And maybe that is something where the countries can jointly look into, because safety goes beyond any border, I would say. So if you can add defense to a wind farm, maybe that is something to look into, at least in the multi-usage of wind farm. So is that as a defense mechanism? Is that as a seaweed farm? I don't think that's been very successful so far, but it has to be something else because it's all money driven at the moment. So find a way to make it more attractive for investors.
For us, I would say it's to understand how we can make the help to make the business case for the developers and to get all the elephants in the room being discussed into details. Yeah, so we have some things to do. That's the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
So I jotted down the first point that we didn't discuss, but what would have been important to one of the questions from the audience. That's a long-term auction roadmap, offshore grid framework, and a clear permitting authority.
Okay.
Not to repeat, I only agree with you what you have said, but on top of that, I think two things. One is let's say the public understanding of the need, why we are doing this and what benefits does it bring. I'll be very clear about the impacts, what it has. And another thing is that we as developers, we have to keep on going. Because, you know, if we just say that, okay, let's wait until there is clarity, we are just postponing everything. I don't know where, but we need to find the belief and the trust and the certainty that there will be the offshore still coming. It's running thin, but we still have it, and then we need to keep on developing the projects because they're not mature yet to start the construction.
I'm going to give you two. The first one is a complete echo of that. If we were half as good, in fact, if we were 1/10 as good as the nuclear or the oil and gas lobby at making our case to government, these projects would already be built. We are terrible as an industry at giving clarity to the public and giving clarity to government, right? But in reality, my real task isn't even 5 years. My only focus right now is winning an auction that's going to start in June or July in Lithuania. So that's it. Sole priority, win the next auction.
Super. Final question. 2040. How much offshore in the Baltics? Not Baltic Sea, in the Baltics.
Trick question. 5 to 10 gigawatt.
Super.
Hopefully 10, but my bet would be closer to 5.
So that's really pessimistic.
No pressure at all, I can see. No?
Shall I go next and take the pressure off everybody? Yeah.
If you feel like it.
Say 15.
It's not auction, I'm just saying, you know.
Look, in reality, 2 projects. Even by then, 2 projects. So 1.5 to 2 gigawatts, absolute max, in my opinion.
Yeah, I share that view. I would have said 2, and if we see a big increase in some kind of consumption, if really these materializing, then maybe 3. Yeah. But that's the reality.
You mentioned 2040?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was hoping I was in another room, but so I said 15. Perhaps 20, but that requires a shared vision, coherent industrial policy, and otherwise it'll be less than 5 gigawatts. That's my 10 cents.
Super. We are out of time, so thank you so much for the discussion and speakers. So applause to and say thank you.
And of course, we have to thank our excellent moderator, Anu. Thank you very much. I will just note down that in WindWorks 20th edition in 2040, we will come back to the bets. We will see you all here, and then we'll hand out the money, okay? But ladies and gentlemen, yes, another round of applause to everyone on the stage for the most confrontational discussion